tell you a story about control in the best sense of the word. You may have heard about the circle of influence, knowing what you control, what you can influence, and what you can't control. The idea is you spend your energy focusing on what you can control and influence, but letting go of what is not in your control. Many people have written about it, and there are lots of quotes to support this idea, but it's much easier said than done. The power behind these circles has become crystal clear to me in the recent months as this pandemic has continued. Many of you are leaders, managers, or you're running your own business or self-employed. And we're all trying to do our best during this time, trying to help others, trying to keep business afloat, support our families, or simply keep ourselves from falling apart. We are fighting to be the best that we can be during this time. I'm here today to share with you my story and the power behind continuous learning, taking control of your own growth, letting go of what you have no control over. Back in March, like everyone around the globe, the recent pandemic changed my life. Andrew very kindly asked me to come and speak today because I typically speak about negotiating skills or influencing skills, change management, personal branding, networking, any kind of soft skill that can really help your people or help you to be the best that you can possibly be. I spent the last 12 years of my life coaching professionals from all different industries, mostly Fortune 500 companies, starting in Singapore, where I traveled around Asia Pacific, and then moving back home to England, covering Europe and New York. I've delivered many different speeches on topics ranging from personal development, leadership and management, business growth, and a variety of tools used in communication skills. While I've spent years speaking on a huge array of topics, there is one topic I haven't spoken about. But in light of the recent situation, I feel it's now time to share with people how learning these soft skills, how developing a better understanding of yourself, how growing isn't just necessary to make money, stay ahead of the competition, or for the bottom line. It isn't just necessary to grow your business or to hit your targets or to keep your employees motivated. Yes, of course, training and learning and development enables all of that. But during this time, our COVID era, I want to argue that learning, growing, taking control of our life and what you can become is more important than ever. For 3 years, I suffered from clinical depression. It got so bad that there were weeks when I couldn't do anything. I'd have to sit in bed, and just like many people who describe what it's like to be clinically depressed, even getting out of bed, like literally putting my feet on the floor, was a challenge. There were times I couldn't leave the apartment, and there were weeks I couldn't work. When I felt okay, I was full steam ahead, making appointments, setting up meetings, selling my programs. But in the back of my head, I was always scared that depression would suddenly hit and I wouldn't be able to make it out of the house. It became really challenging to be able to plan for the future, living in fear of not being able to be the person that I wanted to be. There were even a couple of times when I couldn't make it to those meetings. I just physically couldn't leave. When this happens, you start to beat yourself up because you're not being the person that you want to be. And then it's a bit of a downward cycle into self-hatred and loathing, which is definitely not a way to pull yourself out of that black hole. I started to discover I was actually only okay when I was working, when I was actually speaking in front of people, when I was helping them to be the best that they could be, when I was traveling and talking and coaching others. As many of you will understand and know, when you help someone else, you learn a lot about yourself. You learn about who you are as a person. You learn new tricks, new skills, new ideas. People feed you stories or book recommendations or say something that ends up helping you to actually improve yourself. I realize now this is why I became a corporate trainer in the first place, because I loved learning more about myself and trying to unlock my own potential, and found that through helping people to grow, I was actually the one benefiting. But of course, whenever I stopped speaking, whenever I left the office or went back to my hotel room, or got on that plane or came back to the apartment, depression would set in again. And I'd be sort of stuck in my little dark world, not really understanding how to get out of it. I tried therapy. I remember begging for help from no one in particular, but knowing I would give up almost anything not to be disappointed in myself, to feel alone, to feel like a failure, to feel lost, but nothing really seemed to work. At the beginning of lockdown in March, I was supposed to be going to Poland for 3 weeks. I was really looking forward to those 3 weeks. Work was a break from the world I was living in, and I couldn't wait to get out there, to be back in a hotel room, to be back working, to be back helping people, to have a purpose again, have a reason to exist, and to do something that I was really good at, because that helped me feel a lot better about who I was. And I felt like I was actually succeeding in something. I was going to run a program for Cisco, one of my biggest clients, and take 3 cohorts through a week-long soft skill training boot camp. This is one of my favorite programs to run because when I have an entire week with a group, I really see the difference, the growth, and get to know the participants. It's always been rewarding to hear how it's helped them, but of course, with so many plans at the beginning of lockdown, this didn't happen. And it wasn't that I just didn't get to go away for those 3 weeks of work. Like many people, my work dried up overnight and I no longer had a job. As lockdown set in, it became very apparent that my wedding on June 5th, or supposed to be on June 5th, which I've been planning for 18 months, was also very unlikely to happen. And while I will marry my fiance, hopefully this May 2021, this wedding back in June was going to be the first time I'd seen my sister in a really long time. And the first time I had all my best friends. They live all over the world, and I wanted to have them in one place at one time. So it was more about reconnecting with family and friends and having them all together. This was something I had to give up as well. So you can imagine already suffering from 3 years of being depressed and then losing my job and no longer having a wedding to plan and look forward to. The depression got incredibly bad. So what does one do in this situation? Well, I tried to avoid it. I started binge watching television. I think I watched the entire episodes or seasons of NCIS, Bones, Bosch, you name it. I probably watched it. I exhausted Netflix, let's put it that way. And that didn't really seem to be helping the depression. It just kind of got worse. So then I started thinking maybe I should read. So I started reading books, fantasy novels, beach reads, romance novels, anything to try to avoid the pain of feeling worthless and useless and like I was really going nowhere. But that didn't help either. So then I picked up a book called So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. It talks about putting the effort in and enjoying the journey, not expecting perfectionism from the outset or being trying to be perfect from the outset. I finished it with actionable takeaways. And while I was reading and learning, I didn't feel so bad. So I promptly ordered another book, Stealing Fire by Stephen Kotler, and then The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, followed by Dare to Lead by Brené Brown. I ended up reading business book after business book, and I started to feel like I actually did have some control, that I was learning and I was growing, and I could shape who I wanted to be. And it dawned on me that I needed to start trying to take a little more control over the future and not be reliant on others, that I really was in control of my own future. As I started to feel a little better, I started to realize around me that many people were suffering like me, maybe even worse than me. They had lost their jobs, they lost their futures as well. And I realized that the skills and the tools and the knowledge I had from the last 12 years of corporate training could help them just like the books that I had been reading had helped me. One group in particular I had the ability to influence was Congress London, a 700 member strong women's network I had done many talks for over the past few years. Congress was founded to help women accomplish their career aspirations and networks to achieve their professional goals. But with lockdown, Congress was struggling to help its members. I knew I had the skills to help them because not only had I been an in-person corporate trainer for many years, but I'd also been doing a lot of virtual training across Asia Pacific. I virtually trained many satellite offices and salespeople, as you know, salespeople. They don't really ever want to come into the office. They just want to get out there and keep hitting those numbers and selling. So I started doing virtual training for them. I decided to create 3 webinars for Congress London during those 3 total weeks of lockdown to help everyone stay connected and stay growing. I ran them over Zoom. one a week, and they became oversubscribed and started getting messages from people saying how much the training was helping them feel like they did have a choice, that they could take control and they could do what they wanted to do in life and they could reach their dreams. And as long as they took power for themselves, they could do this. And I realized that I really needed the ability to get this out to the greater UK population. The problem was, up to this point, I had done most of my training for Fortune 500 global organizations, and it's not really affordable for SMEs or individuals. The opportunity to accomplish this came in the form of a government grant from Innovate UK, the COVID-19 Fast Response Grant, to help individuals or companies with innovative ideas that could help people during these unprecedented times reach out to them and help anyone that was really badly affected by COVID-19. Last June, I won this grant, and Intrinsic Energy, a company that will be able to bring affordable live virtual programs to anyone from Fortune 500 employees down to startup ventures to individuals to even the unemployed, was born. It has been an absolute whirlwind. I've never worked so hard and had so many highs and lows, but what hit me recently was I was no longer depressed. That feeling of despair, lack of control, or isolation had finally gone. And what I realize now, what I now understand, is that the ability to learn, the ability to feel like you're in control, the ability to feel like you're growing, that is what got me through probably the darkest times in my life. I now know what I can control and that I have the power to influence others to take that control. Through Intrinsic Energy, my message and training is now positioned to help the UK population. Participants have been benefiting from improved self-awareness, a better sense of direction, especially during these uncertain times, improved focus and effectiveness, being more motivated, developing greater resilience, and creating more fulfilling professional and personal relationships. Learning enables better communication and gives people social maturity. They develop a better understanding of the need for interdependence and cooperation in society, as well as enhance their sense of empathy and improve their interpersonal skills. These sessions help people appreciate their differences while also supporting each other through challenging times. Self-development also gives people control over their lives and their future. It helps people to stay focused and work on areas that are in their control. Progressing, gaining skills, moving forward helps people to stay motivated and engaged. With all the uncertainty in today's world, giving people that ability to grow, to be productive, can counter other potential factors that negatively impact people's mental health. So, my message for all those leaders out there, for anyone else who is struggling right now, not sure what to do or how to help others, taking control is the first step. Realizing you have more control than you think you do. Learn something new, realize you're not alone. Change and challenge our opportunity to learn more about who we are and to grow. This year has been one of the hardest years of my life, but without it, I would not have founded Intrinsic Energy. I would not have lifted myself out of depression, and I would not have found purpose in my life. I look forward to chatting with you all now and answering any questions. Thank you.